Hello and welcome to the webinar called Should I Tell Them? In this webinar, we're going to look at the experiences of gay and lesbian teachers and the decisions and strategies that they've used when deciding to make their sexuality visible in the school. I've divided the webinar into three different sections. The first section is taking a snapshot of LGBTI issues in Australia, defining heteronormativity and the school institution. The second section will be looking at the experiences of gay and lesbian teachers. And the third section, we're going to look at the support for gay and lesbian teachers and some final thoughts for the target audience. Based on my research, I can see that there are four different groups that influence gay and lesbian teachers. The first one is the government. The second one is the school as an institution, and the church comes as a part of this as well. The third one is media, and the fourth one is stakeholders to education, such as the community, parents, and co-workers. And in the middle of all of this, there is you, and you are my target audience. The target audience for this study is all pre-service and practicing teachers. The focus is on all, so homosexual and heterosexual teachers. For homosexual teachers, students and teachers can read your sexuality. So it's important that you are thinking about these issues and you develop your own philosophy. Also, a whole school approach is needed to challenge homophobia and transphobia, so that's why this study is relevant for heterosexual teachers as well. Within the study, I focus mainly on gay and lesbian teachers. However, across the board, there concepts of self-doubt, isolation, bigotry, are common across all types of sexually diverse or gender diverse people. Now I'm going to paint a picture of the current LGBTI issues in Australia. I'm going to start with countries like America, New Zealand and Ireland making same-sex marriage legal, which the government is making a lot of promises about same-sex marriage, such as Bill Shorten promising to legalise same-sex marriage within 10 days of a Labor government. As a result of this, LGBTI issues have been brought into the public eye via the media, which is making government parties, organisations and everyone expressing their views about sexual diversity and marriage equality. Education has been a target, and everyone is discussing the implications for marriage equality on teachers and students. In January 2013, Bob Katter's Australian Party came into the public eye when they were voicing openly homophobic views, saying, I don't want gays and lesbians to be in my kindergarten. This is they were linking homosexual people to pedophiles. It is actually illegal to discriminate against someone based on their sexual orientation, gender identity, or intersex status according to the Sex Discrimination Act, made in 2013. In more recent news, a movie called Gay Bee Baby has a statewide ban in New South Wales because of the Education Minister Adrian Broccoli and the complaints that came from a Presbyterian minister. These complaints have made the movie a statewide famous movie because of all of the controversy. Also in recent news, over 26 million people showed their support for marriage equality after it was made legal in America by adding a rainbow filter to their Facebook profile page. As well as this, the Safe Schools Coalition, supported by the Australian government, is being rolled out among schools across Australia with the aim to create safer and more inclusive schools for sexually diverse students, staff and families. Gay people and relationships are flooding the media, such as movies like Holding the Man, The Kids Are Alright, and the Australian movie Carol. All of these representations are of people gay people who are normal and focusing on their normal everyday lives. And this is going to help separate people's perceptions of homosexuality and the idea that it's all about sex. So this is a brief download of the landscape of LGBTI issues in Australia. As you can tell, it involves government, schools, teachers, parents, and everyone is involved. Before we talk about the experiences of gay and lesbian teachers, it's important to understand two different concepts: heteronormativity and schools as a social institution. Heteronormativity is the belief that people are either male or female, and that heterosexuality is the only sexual orientation, and all other forms of orientations or gender identities are not normal, therefore not right. That can be seen in this comic here, where gay-related questions or gay-related contents are silenced from students. They don't understand it, therefore when it comes up it's seen as abnormal. School as a social institution is the idea that a school is teaching students morals and values to the students directly or indirectly. This is the concept of John Dewey's school as social institutions, where he states that schools act as ecosystems, which teaches students how to act in the real world. This social learning can be a negative thing, such as in this quote here, where this person's idea of a religious school is a control mechanism wrought with religious ethos, making for an education system that can call the shots about how employees and students behave. When heteronormativity and the school as an institution meet, this is bad news for lesbian and gay teachers. Such as this quote says, "Schools as a social institution produce heteronormativity." Okay, we've reached the second section of the webinar. In this section we're going to talk about the experiences of gay and lesbian teachers, particularly focusing on two studies. The first study is called Coming Out as a Lesbian, Gay or Bisexual Teacher, Negotiating the Private and Professional World. This focuses on teachers in primary and secondary schools in the UK. The second study, called Heteronormativity and Rituals of Difference for Gay and Lesbian Teachers, focus on teachers in Western Australia. Both studies look at the choices these teachers make about making their sexuality known, and teachers in this study represent a vast range of values and beliefs about the role of sexuality in schools. A recurring theme among the teachers in both of the studies is the concept of tension between two ideas, speaking out versus the status quo. This is summed up nicely in the quote, "Coming out is complicated by heteronormative practices that render sexuality silent while simultaneously demanding they are spoken." This basically means that teachers feel like they should come out in the workplace to challenge homophobia, but the emotional cost of going against the status quo is too great. There's not enough space for non-heterosexual identities in the workplace. In many ways, how teachers experienced and dealt with this tension influenced how visible they made their sexualities and the strategies that they used to cope. Deciding to make your sexuality known or coming out is a complicated decision that requires a negotiation between private and professional lives. The different stakeholders also influence this decision, such as parents, students, co-workers, the wider community, executive staff. In one of the studies, it categorizes the way that teachers come out in three different ways. It says that they come out in staying silent, they come out to only staff, or they come out to staff and students. Some of the teachers in the study decided to remain silent about their sexuality and chose not to let it be known in the school place. These participants did this because they were afraid of being found out and how they would be perceived by the community. Some other teachers talked more about this fear and how sexuality, and in particular gay male teachers, are linked to pedophilia. These teachers were afraid to be associated with that and highlighted the media as fueling this misconception. It's no wonder then that homosexual teachers experience psychological pressure that can result in stress, anxiety, and depression. Other teachers in the survey remained silent because they didn't believe that sexuality played a role in their teaching. These teachers agree that they don't deny or confirm their sexuality in school. Teachers in both of the studies explained how they used the strategy of self-censorship in order to remain silent. This can be understood by this quote: "It's stressful. It's an added thing that you are constantly aware of and on guard. What you say, how you behave, what attitudes you express, anything that might lead people to suspect your sexuality." Some self-censorship strategies included changing the pronouns when talking about their partners, or paying a close attention to what they wear or how they act. It's no wonder that using this self-censorship strategy takes a large toll on the teachers. Other teachers in the survey chose to be open about their sexuality to staff but not to students. These choices were brought on by the idea of being acceptably gay and not putting too much of their sexuality out there. For these teachers, it was important for their professional identities and also their psychological well-being. Teachers who made this choice felt that they couldn't be truly open about their sexuality because this could be used against them, or they didn't want to be seen as pushing an agenda. Creating a relationship with other co-workers is the professional partnership that's an important part of the school environment. And these relationships start from an openness and a trust. So I can see why it would be important for these people to share their lives with other people. The teachers that chose to be open to staff but not to students had the idea of not making too much of it, and this was adopted by a lot of the teachers when dealing with homophobia from staff and from students. These teachers generally wouldn't call up students who used gay as a derogatory term, such as "that's so gay," and would deflect homophobic comments with staff using humour and heterosexual jokes. For these teachers, it was important not to play the role of this victim, not to be too sensitive, not to be seen as a troublemaker. There are limitations to this approach, though, because bullying and homophobia is brought on and it's continued by the expectation that the victim will stay silent and will not forward on a complaint. A number of the teachers that were surveyed said that they put extra effort into being the best teacher that they could be. So if their sexuality was used against them at any point, then their teaching practice would be above repute. Some of the teachers in the surveys decided to come out to staff and to students, and the main force behind this was the need to be open and to create relationships with students. This choice, unfortunately, was often a response to homophobia that the teachers experienced. But there were two sides of the coin. Some of the teachers said that when they came out, it was a positive platform for students to talk about LGBTI issues. But on the other side of the coin, other teachers said that they experienced overt and indirect homophobia from staff and the parents. For these teachers who came out to staff and students, they identified the need for positive role models for gay and lesbian people and for gay and lesbian students. They were also trying to act against stereotypes of the LGBTI community in the media and in movies, such as the way that gay men are represented in movies such as Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. Some of these teachers, though, identified that when they came out, they felt like they were the only one that students knew, and they also felt like they were a lone, unsupported political voice. Before the teachers came out, they said it was important for them to create a support network with co-workers and executive staff. Some teachers were only able to be open about their sexuality after creating a network with other gay teachers and gay-friendly teachers. Okay, we're going to move on to the third part of the webinar now, and this part focuses on the support that there is for gay and lesbian teachers, and also some final thoughts for the target audience. Creating a support network has been a recurring theme among all of the teachers who were a part of the surveys. Without this network, many of the teachers wouldn't have spoken out against homophobia. This is crucial because of this quote here. No one says anything, so no changes are made. Many of these teachers said that there wasn't a space for gay and lesbian perspectives in their workplace. It's for these reasons that I have included some external supports that would be helpful for LGBTI teachers and also for heterosexual teachers. The Safe Schools Coalition, their main aim is to create a inclusive school for sexually diverse students, schools, school staff and families. The coalition also provides free consultation and advice, as well as professional development that can be tailored to focus on students, teachers, or adopt a whole school approach. The thing that I like particularly about the Safe Schools website is their resources. If you go here and have a look around, it gives an in-depth resources like on all of the different categories in LGBTIQ and some interesting resources that you'd be able to give to your students. Another resource is the Australian Education Union. This would be a good resource for all teachers in general. However, the AEU does run specific LGBTI workshops. The AEU is a good place to go if you are experiencing discrimination and want to make a legal claim. The AEU provides support and legal advice for industry cases, employment law matters, and comprehension claims. Another useful support is the Twitter group Include EDAU. This is a global community of teachers on Twitter that are dedicated to equity and inclusivity for all students and staff. The Twitter community runs weekly Twitter chats every Sunday where teachers generate a conversation about a particular inclusive topic. LGBTI issues are often addressed in these Twitter chats, and it's eye-opening to hear thoughts and experiences of teachers across the world. The Gay News Network is also a good resource for teachers who want to get an update view of the gay news and events in Australia. Articles about education and the government are also frequently added, as well as international news. As a gay person myself, who is starting his first teaching job next year, I am deciding how visible my sexuality is going to be next year. My summary is just the main points that I found most insightful for homosexual teachers and also for heterosexual teachers. The first thing is be proactive in creating a personal position about how visible you're going to make your sexuality known. This position is crucial because people can read your sexuality and will ask you about it. Secondly, LGBTI teachers experience heteronormativity and homophobia from different stakeholders to education on all different levels, from the school institution, parents, students, co-workers and the wider community. I suppose that's just a heads up for me to keep an eye on all of the different stakeholders and how they view homosexual teachers. Thirdly, I can see that it's really important to stay informed in local and national news, and how this has helped me to create my own position and my own knowledge. Fourthly, a recurring theme among all of the study is that creating a support network within the school is really important, and to become a part of the wider community of gay and lesbian teachers, and also to enlist support if needed. And lastly, just noting that the tension between professional and private lives of gay and lesbian teachers, and knowing that they adopt various types of coping strategies to deal with this tension. By hearing all of the stories of the different gay and lesbian teachers, I've realised there's not one way, there's not one coping strategy that works best for all gay and lesbian teachers, but it's a personal choice that is a reflection of their experience in their school and their experience with the stakeholders. And finally, a message for heterosexual teachers. As teachers, we are required to be reflective practitioners who reflect upon their values and how these influence the learning environments that you create. As a homosexual teacher, I'm asking you to reflect on the language that you use in the workplace. Is it supporting heteronormative thinking? And is it excluding gay and lesbian teachers? Gay and lesbian teachers can feel isolated within their workforce and can feel like a lone political voice. Show your support for LGBTI teachers by speaking against homophobia and transphobia, and let the teacher know that you support them and are committed to creating a sexually inclusive environment for staff and students. From this webinar, I hope that you have learnt that including gay and lesbian teachers requires reflection and also action. It requires being aware of different stakeholders, and it also requires being informed and making decisions. Thank you for your time.